motto is where your world grows, and I keep reminding that to everyone who is going to or is already using Cambridge University Press and assessment materials. What does it mean? It means that it's not only about English, because so many people speak English. It's not only about the language learning, but it's this methodology is about the whole person development, which means the development of life skills, cognitive abilities, and generally making your world broader, wider, and more interactive. Okay. For today, we will be talking about grammar, and particularly grammar in the 7th grade for some of the activities and examples. But in general, we will just talk about how grammar is taught and what it means teaching grammar to secondary students according to the methodology that Cambridge books are using. So we will talk about different approaches in teaching grammar, and we will talk about the ideas, how to make it about discovery and choice when teaching grammar. And of course, this should be a correct choice, right choice. Grammar in 7th grade, and we will wrap up the session in the end. So, does grammar matter in communication? This is a question to you. Let's have a look at this question on the screen. And here is the answer. Now type in the chat. Where is the mistake? Correct the mistake. Ah, yes, perfect. Thank you. The mistake is corrected. Now, task 2. Think about the real life situation. Would you correct someone in an everyday conversation in this case? Someone, for example, from China, or someone from I don't know, Italy, or any other not English-speaking country. Would you correct this mistake in a communicative situation? No. No. Why? Because it's absolutely understandable. Where's John? Right? We are asking about the place where he is right now. Where is John? And it doesn't matter. We can say he went to the cinema, he has gone to the cinema, he has been to the cinema, but now I don't know where he is. Yeah, it depends, but we have an answer about the place, something about the cinema. Yeah, and this is what we're interested in. So in this particular communicative situation, we don't we can avoid accuracy in grammar, but are other situations like this, like here, your student and your student, it's absolutely different, right? The meaning is absolutely different. So in this case, it is important. Or here, look at these sentences. How many of them have the same meaning? Type in the chat. How many of these sentences have the same meaning? Okay, we have answers none, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but not all of them, yeah? Even though they consist of the same words, it's not like in math. It's not like when we add 2 and 3 and 2, we will anyways have 7 without any without any meaning where we put the order 2 and 2 and 3 or 3 and 2 and 2 and so on. But here it is important because it's not only about math, it's about logic, right? And logic is a little bit different and a little bit more complicated than math on this stage. And so we understand that, okay, so children don't even know math yet properly, but we already need to teach them some very much more complicated structures. But still, even it's easy for students to imitate those structures and then finally get to understanding. So it depends. We will talk about it later. But here, only I have oranges for you. This is one meaning. I only have oranges for you. Like I don't have anything else. I have only oranges for you. Same here. Yeah, but still there is a little difference. I only have oranges for you and I have only oranges for you have different emotional like how do you call it, emotional color. And the last 3 I have oranges only for you, for only you, and for you only, also a little bit different emotional color, but the meaning stays almost the same. Still, depending on the context and depending on the on the person we're talking to, yeah, on the addressee, it's different. Okay. Now, what is generally what is grammar? If we look into the definition from Greek, this stands here for Greek. For Greek, grammar means the set of rules that regulate how the language is used. And in ancient Celtic, in ancient English, we could say, grammar means magical spells. And you can see how magically the meaning can change when you change the grammar in this sentence. So there is something there, and I really like starting teaching grammar from the idea that there is some magic into it. And I do suggest you this definition to just keep in mind and be a little bit more motivated and maybe share with your students how it happened so that grammar meant magical spell. You can Google it. You will find it in the etymological dictionary for English language. What counts as grammar? So is it here what you can see? Is it about grammar? Yeah, okay. I'm just asking those questions to see whether you're still there. Now, is this grammar? And is this grammar? Yes. Yes, all these bits somehow are connected to the word grammar, to the notion grammar. But what's the difference between them? They're not just one and the same grammar. And you can see here that walk, walked, walking, this is about the form of the of one verb. This is morphology. Then this one would be, oh, sorry, this one with Oxford comma, which I still don't get it. There is no such thing in Ukrainian language as Oxford comma, but you see how the meaning is changed when you don't put a comma in a proper way before end. This is not how we do it in Ukrainian language. And here we invited rhinoceros, Washington, and Lincoln, means that there are three separate items. And here we invited rhinoceros, Washington and Lincoln, which means that both of them are rhinoceros. We would put a column here, but you see, there is an Oxford comma. So pay attention to that one. And I saw John a minute ago. She must have left. Yeah, it's a little bit strange because either John, we don't know, yeah, but still there should be more context and a proper discourse, so we understand who's John and whether it's he or she or they or yeah, there should be more context. And to finish the introduction, grammar schools. What is a grammar school? It's not something like we can imagine these days. Grammar schools would be the first schools that were separate from church, and they were called grammar schools for some reason. And also that's for you to maybe get more motivation and read up on what is grammar school. These were schools where students were studying 7 main subjects and fine arts and as we call it these days, humanities, like philosophy and things like that. And they, as you can see here at the picture, they have proper zones. Here is the teacher working with only one student. There are students doing some project, some arts and crafts. And it's not like those classical schools from 19th century or 17th century even. These were in 12th 14th century, and you can see how they are different from today's understanding what could be a grammar school. So make sure again that we are trying to go away from the way the education was dominating in 19th or 20th century, because we aim at preparing students for life which is free of different ideological contexts or free of dictating our students what they have to do. And for that, we need to really delegate the responsibility of their studying on them. And this is the picture that shows how it's done. And later I will show you what we can do, at least first steps in English teaching, what we can do to make our students a little bit more responsible and interested in their own studying. So let's have a look at this one. How is grammar best taught? There are scholastic approach and natural approach in teaching grammar. And you can see here academic and experiential. So then we have explicit instruction and implicit learning, bilingual, monolingual, rule learning, and rule discovery, focus on written language, focus on spoken language, focus on accuracy, focus on fluency. Of course, you cannot say that there should be only one way, only natural approach, because in case we only use natural approach, our students might lack accuracy. They might lack the skills in writing, and they might just not understand something if their type of learning is a little bit not linguistic. And vice versa. If we only teach grammar through explicit instruction, students might be not able to acquire the language, personalize it, and make it their own skill. Okay. Okay, let's go here. Now, when we think about what are the main steps or main stages in teaching grammar, let's have a look at these sentences, and I will ask you to, for yourself, or if you want, you can type in the chat. Can you identify the error here? Okay, thank you. I went. Not last weekend. Well, I went. Yeah, you're right. But of course, you can correct the mistake. But why? Yeah, you need to think about why. And really to explain to yourself, not just automatically do this. Then I was really fit when I went, when I was at school. Mm-hmm. Used to go. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, and the last two. Okay, the last two are a little bit. Uh-huh. A little bit hard to explain, yeah. But what I wanted from you is to explain. So which error is the spelling? A, B, or C? Which error is spelling error? A, B, C, or D? D, right you are. Which one is the meaning error? Which one is the meaning error? Exactly, A. Okay, great, perfect. So for that, we have a proper explanation and abbreviation we should keep in mind when we go to the grammar lesson. Yeah, for errors of meaning, then we have errors of form, which is sentence B. I was really fit, and so on. I used go. Yeah, this is the error of form. We need to say used to go because this is the structure. Then we have errors of pronunciation, and it was a bit difficult for you to explain what would be right because we don't. It's not something you can spot in writing. But looks like the student would say use it to. Yeah, use it to go, or something like this. So this is an error of pronunciation, and we usually drill it together with the form or already while practicing. And error of spelling, right you are, that was the sentence D. These two, like pronunciation and spelling, are not that much about grammar itself. It's also about vocabulary learning, right? But still, there should be some space for teaching those. Now, meaning, form, pronunciation, and spelling. We use these abbreviations, and what's important, meaning and form should always be addressed when focusing on grammar in the classroom. Pronunciation also important, and can be worked through depending on the needs of students. For example, I just, until this moment, I remember how in the 7th grade we were all together sitting and saying together mustn't, and looking at the T on the blackboard, and it was crossed, like mustn't. There is a T that we do not pronounce, right? And we spent like 5 minutes saying one and the same word, and then sentences, and then different sentences with the same word. So we get used to the fact that there is silent T in the word mustn't. Then S depends on your context. S, I mean, spelling depends on your context. Yeah, it's quite a problem, not only for grammar, but for all the English language can be a problem. And yeah, when we think about how, in terms of percentage, how do we really teach grammar during the lessons, and how do we present or ask students to practice or give them a lot of homework? So I'm just suggesting this fun activity for you. Which one are you? Grammar hooligan would be a person who would correct a student every time a student makes a mistake, even if it's not a student, who would be correcting everything right away, and being super precise and listening to everything. Then grammar critic is someone who doesn't really like teaching grammar and thinks it's not that important to speak grammatically correct. Like we had at the beginning, he go to cinema. Okay, that's understandable. That's enough. Yeah. So that would be a grammar critic. And grammar rationalist, a person who like uses enough grammar but more communicative activities. So which one are you? Oh my God, so many grammar rationalists. This is so good. Wow. That's why you're English teachers and I'm not anymore. Yeah, it depends. Exactly. I have the same. I am actually quite a grammar hooligan, but I stop this hooligan inside me because it's not always important to correct mistakes. It is important if you're an editor. If you edit a book, of course. But when you are teaching, being a grammar hooligan is something not very good because you just stop students half word and that won't help. But there are moments when they have to be stopped if this is a like fossilized mistake or something. Yeah, I'm very often grammar critic when I teach not English, but I use English for that. For example, in my acting classes, like I teach drama to students, and whenever they make a mistake, it's not my problem. Their language is not my problem. My problem is their presentation skills. And then at the end of the session, I can tell them, like, look, individually, you made this and this mistake. Are you sure you don't need some I don't know, extra practice? Here are some exercises. You can deal with those in your free time. But if this is not an aim, this shouldn't be an issue. Because very often we have, for example, CLIL lessons, and we can be grammar critics there. We don't really need grammar at the CLIL lessons, because what we teach is, for example, geography, and students need to catch the concepts about, or maths. They need to learn some maths, and grammar here is completely not the aim. Then we come back when we teach grammar, there is a name, and there we can again be grammar hooligans. But a proper combination of those two would be a grammar rationalist, of course. Okay, moving on. Now, what are the ways of teaching grammar to secondary students? Again, explicit and implicit when we give instructions. Which one is better to use? Of course, they should be combined. Both explicit and implicit at the same time, on the same lesson, one by one. They should be, especially when we just start the new grammar topic, they should be combined. What does it mean? Implicit when we give instructions to students, and they just do it when we tell them this is the rule and now you follow the rule. Explicit is when students are figuring out what is the pattern, and they're like, so there might be some rule. But we cannot allow students to make up their own rule and without checking it with the reality, right? So we combine explicit and implicit. And finally, I have a little poll for you. You know the drill. You scan the QR code, or you go to slido.com and enter this code. After that, I will ask you to choose which statement is true for you. You can choose several. You can choose one or two statements. So I will leave you with the poll for a little while. No, not in the chat. Not in the chat. You go to slido.com, enter this code, and choose what is true for you. Or you scan the QR code and choose what is true for you. This is a survey, and it's done on this website. And here we will just see the results. Okay, so you go to slido.com and you enter this code, or you just scan the QR code if you have your phone in front of you. Okay, there are 130 people. Nobody wants to go to slido.com. I can't believe that. If there is a problem, please tell me about it. Ah, okay, perfect. Thank you. Someone voted. I can see how it moves. All right, I think that's enough. So we have almost 70% who explain the rules first and then they make examples. And we have 64% of those who read, listen to text, and then students to try figure out the meaning. And looks like we don't have, we have, I believe it's only one person. We learn structures by heart. All right. All right, so this is quite an academic, scholarly approach, and most of us use it, but I like the fact that there are people who use the second one. Of course, all of them are quite important. And if if we talk about the second one, this is the methodology that is in the heart of Cambridge books, but at the same time now we have this one first. We read, we listen, we get the context, then students try to figure out the meaning, and then it's not voluntarily, I still explain, I give the rule, I give them formula tables and other references, but it's not the first thing to do. First, they try to figure it out on their own, and then we give them all the references needed, after which they practice more, knowing their own discovery, and then comparing their own discovery to the existing rule. And then we practice, and then we can make our own examples and come back to the context from which we learned this rule, right? So translation, sorry, it's jumping all the time. Translation and looking for equivalents in Ukrainian, it's a great idea if you are a linguist, if you're a philologist, if you are interested in extra work, because translation and finding equivalents is extra work. It might be interesting, but it doesn't help you teach English to the students. It complicates this thing, and but it might be really helpful for students to understand how generally how language works. And we learn structures by heart. This is a great idea for primary students, for the 1st and 2nd grade. That's where they learn the structure by heart, because they still don't have this metalinguistic thinking about language as a system. Yeah, and it would be difficult for them to learn the rule and then act according to the rule, because this is, it just doesn't make sense for them. And students of the 7th grade, which we're talking about here, they already have this metalinguistic knowledge. They already can track the patterns, discover the patterns, and make their own rules. So, first of all, when teaching grammar, we help learners understand the meaning from the context. And there are 2 principles of understanding meaning. First, we provide context for target grammar structures to help learners understand meaning. And second, make use of questioning rather than just telling, rather than just providing the table, the formula, the reference. In order to bring grammar to learners' conscious attention and involve them actively in the process of working out the meaning. Let's see how it works, and we will take examples from Prepare Ukrainian Edition, 7th grade. So, here we start with the meaning. We just had a text which students had to read, and we go to the grammar right after the text. Look at the example sentences from the text the students had before and find all the verbs. Okay, let's do that. Gary was building, was working. We're looking, had an idea. Finished, moved in. Now, which verbs are past simple and which verbs are continuous? We are doing the same. Now, match AC to 1, 3. So we have one action follows by other, then the action are happening at the same, and so it's a simple exercise. But what we do next, we ask students to form the rule, to choose. So we use past continuous to form the past continuous. We use this and that, and so on. Then, after we did this exercise, we discovered a pattern together with the students. We finally go to the grammar references, not before reading the text, because then there is no intrigue. All right. We derived meaning from the context. Now we go to form. We need these tables to drill the forms and to set the forms into students' minds. So we work with past simple, past continuous. We form all the positive, negative questions and short answers in the grammar reference. And then we work a little bit more with the meaning, what we use in which case, and we can ask more questions, which are called context check questions. So for these sentences, do we know when mom and dad started cooking? Mom and dad were cooking, my brother was playing, and I was doing my homework. No, we don't. So it's correct. What is happening at the same time? All of them are happening at the same time, yeah? So we ask students this kind of questions to see whether they understand why this form is used in this way and why it is important for the meaning that you cannot just say, I go to the cinema, you know? Now, after that, we have practice, and we go from simple exercises, yeah, very simple exercises, like make up sentences, yeah, open the gaps, and so on, to more complicated exercises. Here we have open the gaps, but then correct the mistakes. And the exercise taken from Cambridge English Corpus, which is a database of all the possible most widespread mistakes students make during the exams. So these mistakes are very common. We waited at a bus stop when we first met. Yeah? Correct the mistakes, and students correct mistakes and try to explain, as we did with I used to go to cinema and things like that. And you can ask them, so is there a mistake in the form? Or is there a mistake in the meaning? Or is there a mistake in spelling? And students will try to think deeper and develop their metalinguistic abilities. And then finally, they make their own stories, put the story down according to the pictures. Okay. So when we look at how we teach grammar, we first think of how we used to teach grammar. And we used this presentation, practice, production approach, which was super popular in the 60s and 70s, last century. Now, methodology moves on, and it moves on really fast. And like 10 years ago, we started talking about discovery, consolidation, and use, which is also the model that consists of 3 stages, right? But they are different. Presentation and discovery are quite opposite. Practice and consolidation are quite the same, but very often presentation leads not to production, but to representation, reproduction. And this is not what we need from our students in this century. We need students to think not just critically, but also to think reasonably, to think logically. Yeah, because critically, it's when you can ask questions. You can you don't trust everything what you're told. Yeah, but if we present something and then ask students to produce what we presented, they will reproduce without understanding what is think critically. But to think critically, they need to think first, right? To look at the reasons, to notice the patterns. And so we let students discover patterns in grammar and then practice, consolidate their discoveries into the rule, compare it to the real rule, and then use this rule according to what they discovered. And in this way, they personalize the language, they personalize grammar, and it's more interesting. So to wrap up, I just started talking about 60s and 70s. So there were a few things that happened in language teaching, in pedagogy generally. For example, in 1965, Chomsky started talking about competence and performance in language learning. For him, competence is the linguistic system of a language, whereas performance is its use. Applied linguistics started to see that learning a second language means primarily learning to comprehend it and to speak it. That's a really great idea about performance, that we can only perform something if we have it inside. Yeah, we cannot make impression that we know the language. And this is very often done by the educational system, like, for example, ours, that is based on the educational system that used to teach how to make impressions and how not to show the truth. But performance means that we can show something that we already have acquired. Now, in 1972, Heinz was talking about communicative competence as a separate competence, and he was mostly giving us this context that we are studying language functions, not just the set of rules and vocabulary that then somehow we combine together. But what we need to study is the language functions in order to resolve a communicative situation or to take part in the communicative situation. Then in 1975, scientists started talking about discourse competence and communicative approach started promoting language learning as a social activity. Yeah, so communicative competence became the fundamental competence that we develop among our students. And in 1990s, there was another breakthrough in linguistic, in how you call it, in learning second language methodology, and that was the Common European Framework of References for Language. It was developed back then, and so we can measure, somehow we can measure what we teach, how we teach, and why we teach it on this level, and how we build up on that. Yeah, right now, 30 years later, we still use the Common European Framework of References, but I think that we will soon add the new breakthrough, which is the blended learning. And in terms of blended learning, students really need more autonomy, more responsibility for their own learning, because blended learning gives us this wonderful possibility to leave students alone finally, not to dictate them how they should or shouldn't learn something, but to find their own way. And we're really afraid to let them go because we want to be in control of what we teach and how we teach. But we still are a significant other who can facilitate their learning, who can be helpful, who can direct, but not dictate. So there will be another one when it finally works, here especially. And yeah, research aimed at accounting for why learners in immersion contexts fall short of acquiring a target like grammar suggests that learning is prejudiced if there is an exclusive focus on content without any focus on form. Very interesting phrase regarding grammar, but it's very often easier to understand grammar when we understand what we want to say and what we mean. When we don't really know the names of all the tenses, but we know what to say in which situation. So the more communicative situations we provide for students, the better they will acquire this grammar, even maybe sometimes without knowing that this is how past continuous and past simple work together, right? Because this is the way we learned our language in the first place, before we learned our language rules. Yeah, so try to keep this order. First, go from the meaning to form, and then from form to, from drilling the form and practicing the form together with the meaning to communication, not vice versa. Not first you give them formula and form, and then you finally get to meaning. It's always better to start with the meaning of something because it motivates. And are you sure we're wrapping up, right? So are you sure you're not making mistakes? I found a few funny pictures, like this is what our teacher these days looks like a lot, right? I expect you all to be independent, innovative, critical thinkers who will do exactly as I say. Yeah, it is difficult, but we need to let students do their own, make their own mistakes. And yeah, you do it my way, try, let's figure out the way, because it's about the way, not about my or your way. English exists even though we don't teach it, or we do teach it, right? There is English, there is a way, always, and we just help students to find it together. Remember about how students can get stressful while learning grammar, especially if they struggle with logical thinking, or if they struggle with speaking, with any kind of performance. There are such things as apostrophophobia, actually the fear of incorrectly positioned apostrophe. There is something very English about it. And there is also a telephobia, the fear of not being perfect in something. And this is something we shouldn't develop in our students, especially while teaching grammar. And yeah, keep it positive. Always provide context before you go to formulas, formulae, and tables. Do not overgeneralize, because there are always exceptions to any rule. See, I'm generalizing now. Let the students notice and discover. Let the students choose. Let the students make mistakes. Challenge your students. Keep in mind the type of intellect your students have, and develop life competencies at the first place. Develop their critical and creative thinking in the first place. And for you, don't forget to sign up to our social media. We are preparing some news and changes to our Facebook page. For example, we prepare much more materials like these, which you can just download and use for your lessons. They are fun activities, fun pictures with some rules or with some activities. Yeah, join our Facebook page. It's called Cambridge English Ukraine. Easy to find. Like the look at that, the post. Like the post and share with your colleagues and students. We will be really thankful if you help us share the knowledge together. And this is the link to our Facebook page. The book I was talking about is Prepare Ukrainian Edition for 7th grade, and you can find it here on our Publishing Linguist UA website, in pilot project, and in the secondary school sections. You will find materials for students, for teachers, audio files, videos, and also new online support. And don't forget that we still provide free teacher development courses on our new Ukrainian School English teacher platform. And you can go through all the materials, pass the test, and get the certificate for 20 hours, 10 hours, and 15 hours, depending on the test you're passing. Join our pages. This is Ukrainian English language teacher learning platform, and also pilot project teachers group, which you can be interested in. The references and links where I was using, where I was getting inspiration for this session is Teacher Development Training Plan by Alex Tilbury, one of the Cambridge experts. How to Flip Your Grammar Lessons by Matt Ellman, also one of Cambridge speakers and authors who has a lot of great articles. Yeah, the book Prepare Ukrainian Edition 7th grade. Now, if you want to learn more, you can contact me by this email, or you can contact our linguist consultant, Jana Svertluk. You can see her phone number and email address on the screen. And these are our websites which you might be interested in. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.